Hey everybody, welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. I am Bill, and today I'm joined by the entire crew. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today. We've got Sony teasing their new PlayStation Portable, Nintendo and Valve issuing a DMCA takedown for Dolphin on Steam. Gollum is giving us yet another broken game at launch, and Square Enix is promising that Final Fantasy XVI might break that trend of broken games. Plus, we've got upcoming events as we approach what would have been E3 season, and June is kicking off with some massive game drops. Now, every week we start off the show by talking about what we've been playing, and we usually wrap up the show with like what videos are coming out. I'm going to start us off with what videos that everybody has coming out. So, Kyle, from CryoBite33, Kyle, what videos do you have on the way out this week or next week or your most recent video?
My most recent video went up today, and it's an X-Real Air AR glasses review. It's a rebranding of Nreal, so if you've seen those, it's the same product.
Oh, awesome. What did you think of them? It went out already, right?
Yeah, I went out this morning. I loved them. They're actually on my nightstand back there. You might be able to see them. I've been
Someone,
using them all the time.
Emilio asked, how hard are they, or how easy are they to get in Sweden?
Not incredibly. You have to import them through Amazon US, so it takes a couple extra weeks, and you have to pay VAT.
Got it.
Carrie, what about you? What's your latest hijinks over there on the Fox?
The last video I did was trying to basically showcase that the Asus ROG Ally is by default not doing a good job of managing its power and not doing it in an efficient manner, which it'll just kind of waste cycles. And if we take matters into our own hands using tools that came out for AMD 6800U platform, where you can modulate CPU clocks and GPU clocks while trying to like keep an eye on a frame rate cap. Basically, we can get significantly better battery life, up to 2 times better battery life, still getting a 60 FPS frame cap, and also the same settings. So that was the video that I did. It just did a really quick showcase to show what's possible. It's really more of a concept video. As new tools start coming out, I'll be showing like how-to guides on that.
Awesome. What about you, Russ? What's going on over in the retro lands in Retro
Oh
Game
man,
Core?
so I reviewed a Palcade device called the X28 that is basically the same chipset as the Retroid Pocket Flip, but like with a candy bar form factor. It's a device that they had planned on making like a year and a half ago, and it finally released. And it's okay. It's got some issues with the D-pad and analog sticks and whatnot, but it's a big step up from their previous devices. I need a break though from like retro, like new retro handhelds and reviews and stuff. So what I did is yesterday I took the day off and I only played the original Game Boy DMG all day. And so I'm going to make a video about what that's like to play the old school one after having, all these other ones in my repertoire. And so it'll be interesting. I'm going to try to record the video as soon as we're done here. So hopefully it'll be ready by tomorrow.
That's awesome. And what about you, Rich?
Yeah, so I just uploaded a video today. It's my latest tech news roundup. I talk about a couple of things we're going to talk about here. So, for example, I talked about Nintendo kind of coming after Dolphin on Steam, as well as a PC port coming to Steam. So, a couple of things there. And then on my video from Friday, I talked about the Sony Project Q. So that's another one we're going to talk about today. I'm excited about that.
And my latest video that I posted, I don't remember when, a couple days ago, was my reaction to the whole kerfuffle going on with Valve and Nintendo. So if you want to check out the videos that we were just mentioning, make sure that you check out the description down below that like button. Click the like button while you're down there as well. And everybody's stuff is going to be linked there after the show. I'll update this the description for this video so that you can find all of those videos as well. Usually we talk about the games that we've been playing, but everybody is still neck deep in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So we're going to move on and talk about upcoming games because there are a lot of games that are on their way out. And I'm not going to list off all the games coming out in June, just the really, really big ones, the ones that are big standouts and ones that we just got review embargoes lifted for. And that's going to be Street Fighter 6 and Diablo 4. I believe, did both of those get review embargoes lifted today?
Diablo 4 for certain, yes. I don't know about Street Fighter 6. I actually haven't seen the reviews. I've just seen a lot of good reception so far.
Yeah, and then we also have coming out in June is Final Fantasy XVI, which is another one that I am really, really hyped for. There's a bunch of other games that are coming out in June. I'm just going to leave them on the screen for a second, but let's talk about Street Fighter 6, because I don't think anybody on here has really talked about that game all that much. I want to say that as somebody who really liked Street Fighter in the arcade, and I played it a bunch on my Super Nintendo, I think the last one that I really played, or at least enjoyed a lot, was the version that was either on my Super Nintendo or on my Sega Genesis back in the day. I never really got into those because I always felt like the inputs were the barrier to entry for me, where, you know, you had to do like quarter circle forward, or the weird forward, down, and then quarter circle forward, like those weird inputs followed with the buttons. And like those were always kind of a barrier to entry for me, because I always felt like I just Mortal Kombat was easier as far as the inputs go. So Street Fighter's been something that I've just always been aware of. But then the new version is supposed to come out, I believe, in 3 days. If I'm wrong, somebody in chat, I'm sure, will tell us. And it has like these new controls where it's very much like Smash Brothers, which is, for me, very appealing, because then all you have to really pay attention to is like your character spacing and like when is the best time to use this ability, not necessarily can you have the thumb dexterity to actually input that ability. So I am very excited for this game. Russ, I can't remember who said it before. Was you were saying before that you were hyped for this game?
I hadn't said it, but I am a little bit hyped for it. I'm like you, or I played the old one back in the day. You know, like I remember like going into a Pietro's Pizza, which is like a Pacific Northwest pizza place, and like seeing that first Street Fighter 2 game. I must have been, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, those character sprites are like as big as real life. You know, like it was just amazing to me. And so I've always loved the old ones, you know, and yeah, again, on the Super Nintendo. My issue with the Super Nintendo one, though, was that, you know, the best buttons, which were the hard kick or the fierce or whatever they call them, they're on the shoulder buttons. And I never really got used to using that left shoulder button with my hand. And so, I don't know, I had a hard time playing it on the Super Nintendo back in the day. And then, yeah, like with you, it kind of dropped off. I think I played Super Street Fighter on the Super Nintendo. That was about it. And so I do test with Street Fighter 5 all the time, like to make sure it runs, you know, and all my PC game testing and stuff like that. And I do play it for a bit every time, but it hits differently nowadays. You know, those games are just like really hard hitting and just kind of feel a little bit more slow in their pacing and just what I'm used to and whatnot. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see how Street Fighter 6 comes about, but I'm not like a day one purchase kind of guy for that.
I'm also not a day one purchase, but not because I'm not excited for the game. I'm not a day one purchase because we got too many games to talk about. Now, I know it wasn't Rich that said he was, because we were talking about it. And Rich said, no, but you said, I'm excited for you guys. So somebody else said that they were really hyped for it. Who was it? I can't remember. It was right before the show.
I'm interested in it a whole bunch, only because when it's coming out, for Street Fighter 5, I had an inclination to like, okay, this is gonna be a fighting game. I'm gonna pick one because I haven't really gotten into a fighting game since Tekken 3. So we're talking 30 years ago when I was hardcore into a fighting game and like learning every character, learning the intrinsic parts of like every bit of how they all fight and stuff, and trying to understand spacing and all that. So with FS6, I want to basically be there day one and kind of participate in the online space and just battling people online, because that's where I feel like you really start to get better overall. And there's a bit of a metagame that you learn in there as well when you start learning fighting styles and stuff. But I am very interested only from that particular angle.
Yeah.
What about you,
for
Kyle?
me,
Oh, go ahead, Rich.
For me, being excited for you guys, what I was saying was, I have been into the Street Fighters. So I've been into Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5 heavy. Like I spent hundreds of hours in Street Fighter 4 specifically. I never got really good, right? I was stuck in gold. I don't, just like any other kind of competitive game. I was stuck in gold, but I was heavy into it, and I got really into Street Fighter V. But it's just it's lost some of the mainstream appeal along the way, right? From Street Fighter 2 to Street Fighter 5, it's lost that mainstream appeal. And I do think modern controls is going to go a long way. I think the single player stuff is going to go a long way. And they're also doing $1 million prize for Capcom Cup. So first place gets $1 million. And I think top 2 through 8 or something gets another $1 million total. So I think number 2 gets 100,000, something like that. So they're doing a lot to bring not just nerds like me, but also bring more of the mainstream people into Street Fighter 6 as well.
Kyle, are you going to be competing in the Capcom Cup for that $1 million?
Probably not. Probably not. My first game ever was actually Tekken 3, like Fox mentioned. I was always more of a Tekken kid. I might pick up Street Fighter now that it has modernized controls, but it won't be a day one. I'm still in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, if Diablo 4 were not coming out this week, I would consider picking up Street Fighter 6, but I am still only... Okay, I'm going to say I'm halfway through because I've done 2 of the main things, but it's not really halfway through. I'm like halfway through Tears of the Kingdom, and like I was talking to a friend of mine at work today, and I was like, I'm going to have to start beelining towards the end of the game for 2 reasons. Number one, spoilers, because every time I scroll somewhere on YouTube or Twitter, I'm afraid that somebody's going to like post the end as a screenshot or something. So as I scroll through, I'm always thinking I've got that going on in the back of my mind. But also, we've got Diablo 4 coming right on the heels of Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6, I believe, comes out on the 2nd, and Diablo 4 comes out on the 6th, because, 6/6.
6/6.
But Street Fighter 6 got a 92 on Metacritic already. Like, that's just really, really crazy high scores. And then Diablo 4, I don't remember how they're... I know
80,
that it's
89, 88.
89. It's just crazy how well these games are reviewing. I was reading a couple of articles while I was waiting for the show to start, and I was like, holy cow, these are just absolutely glowing reviews. And one person was like, I'm going to write a completely different review about the story because the story is too good for Diablo 4 that you don't want to don't be one of those guys that mashes B to skip the story. You want to get the story of this game because it's really, really well told, and all of the gameplay loops, they've just absolutely perfected them. Now, right before the show, Russ, you said you'd never played a Diablo game before, right?
I've never played any sort of like isometric RPG at all. Like the closest has been like Hades or something, which I don't think is like that either. But like that's it. Like I just never played those games. I had roommates. Oh my gosh, they used to put so many hours. And I had one roommate who was just like addicted to Diablo 2 and Raisin Nut Bran or whatever they call that, like Raisin Bran. You just like eat bowls of that like in between a session.
Oh, you mean the actual cereal? Okay, I was so confused. I thought it was like some kind of weird thing. I don't know. Okay, so. What like you said before the show, you're going to be playing this game. What about this one is enough to say, all right, I'm going to give this Diablo a shot I'm
Well, I got you guys, honestly. Like that's really it. It's like I finally because it does not appeal to me to just click. I'm really like summarizing this and reducing it here, but I feel like you just click a bunch and get a bunch of loot. You know what I mean? That's always felt about those games. But if you're doing it with friends, like who cares? You're doing other stuff at the same time, talking or whatever. So,
Carrie, what about you? You hyped for Diablo 4?
Yeah, I am. I'm a huge Diablo fan. I like playing Diablo 1 and Diablo 1's DLC that came out, Hellfire. That whole online scene scared me terribly, just getting grief killed instantly all the time. And then when D2 came out, when they had BattleNet was so awesome. BNet was fantastic. I loved BNet. The atmosphere of BNet and how it was, that was a time that I wish that people could feel, because that was a special time. But yeah, huge fan of Diablo 2. Diablo 3, bounced off. I like finished it and then I never went back to it at all. The auction house and all the other stuff. It's just like it's just a bit weird. And D4 feels a lot like to me like the old times. I think as long as I can get a group that will do hardcore mode, because hardcore mode makes things intense. Like when you see your health drop down and you know you're going to die and that's it, game over. You have to start from scratch. That is in that not many people like that because the anxiety is crazy because you get hit and you're like, oh no, and you're trying to pot up while you're running away. It's a lot of fun that way. So that's the way I technically prefer to play, but that's only because I've had so many hours in Diablo. But oddly enough, and this may sound kind of crazy, I am not buying it day one, only because I am still confident that the Microsoft ABK deal is going to go through, and then I'll just have it on Game Pass. So I don't want to buy it and then get it through Game Pass. Like there's this barrier for me. So there's also too many games that I want to play anyway. So I'm just like, okay, I'll just wait on that. Which might mean that I don't play it all that much, to be honest.
Well, there's some incentive, especially for you, Carrie, to start right away because here's a tweet from Diablo. They said, think you can cheat death if you reach level 100 on hardcore mode and tweet hashtag Diablo 4 hardcore with proof to have your username immortalized on a statue of Lilith. It's only the first 1,000 people that do it.
I wouldn't get it's impossible. I won't be. I have too much responsibility. If I had zero responsibilities, I might entertain it, but knowing that it's just impossible. That's a goal that I won't achieve, so I'm not going to even look into it.
Rich, where are you going to be playing Diablo 4?
I'll play it. I'm a lot like Russ. I played a little bit of Diablo 2. If I'm being reductionist, I also have not I played Destiny and not Destiny, actually Borderlands. I had a similar feeling where it was the loot shooter. I think Destiny balanced it more, but the loot shooter mechanics in Borderlands just felt like, okay, I get it. I can get some new guns. That's cool. But I didn't really enjoy the gunplay. So I just kind of dropped off of it. And it was similar for Diablo where it was just, I did feel like I was just clicking around. And so I think maybe hardcore mode would have been a better fit perhaps. But yeah, that's something that I will try with Diablo 4.
And what about you, Kyle? Are you picking this game up?
Probably not day one, but I will be picking it up. I played a lot of Diablo 2, although at the time I didn't have internet, so I played it all offline. Diablo 3, I didn't like at all, so I played a lot of Path of Exile. And I'm hoping Diablo 4 brings us back to the Diablo 2 days.
Yeah, I'm still trying to decide where I'm going to play it. Like, I'm not going to play it on PC because I very much prefer I'm going to be playing over there on my couch on the screen. When Diablo 3 added in controller mode, it improved the game, in my opinion, and people can be mad at me if they want about this, but it improved the game so much because I wasn't constantly click, 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 click. Like, it was a nonstop click, click, click with your mouse, and it just felt so much more relaxed after that, which I really, really liked. So I'm going to be playing it on console, but I have yet to decide if I'm going to pick it up on Xbox or on PlayStation, but I will be picking it up day one, if for no other reason than my son is super hyped for Diablo 4, and so I want to be able to play it with him. And so we're definitely going to be picking that up at this house. And there's going to be a NerdNest guild, by the way, so join the Discord if you guys haven't, if you're looking for, or I guess it'd be a cult. I don't remember if it's a guild or a clan, but you guys know what I mean, that kind of, social thing. End up join the Discord if you want. I did run a poll while we were having this conversation, and I asked, which game are you guys most hyped for? Just for the people who are here in chat, which there's almost 200 people here right now already. Wow. That's awesome. Diablo 4, 77% said that they were hyped more for Diablo 4, and 22% said Street Fighter 6 was the one that they are both hyped for. But guess what? They're both really, really well-reviewed games already. And so I'm personally really excited for this. People are asking why I'm not going to be playing it on the Steam Deck. I know it's going to perform better on consoles than the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is going to be a great place to play it, but I don't have to jump through the hoops in order to install the Blizzard launcher like I did with World of Warcraft and all that stuff. It's just kind of It's kind of a pain, and I don't want a pain. I just want to be able to sit down and play. But the cool thing about Diablo 4 is it's completely platform agnostic. So whatever game, whatever system you're playing it on, it's cross-platform, it's cross progression. So, you know, no matter where anybody plays it, we're all going to be able to play together, which is really, really awesome. All right. Any last thoughts on Diablo or Street Fighter before we get going?
I will mention for Street Fighter, you know, you guys all were saying, oh yeah, it's great that they have modern controls. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, this sucks so bad. That's my one advantage,
Yeah?
is that I can
It's-
play with those controls and I'm good at
Oh.
it. You know what I mean?
No, it's balanced. As far as I've seen, it's balanced so that like it's not like a cooldown mechanic like other fighters are doing. It's that basically by using modern controls, you're almost limited in what you can do. So, for example, just the fact that you can do 6 different normals, they're called, right? Like you can do a jab, straight, fierce. You don't have access to all of those buttons basically when you're doing modern controls. So you basically have a limited subset of controls that you can do. So it makes it easier, but you don't have access to everything.
Yeah, see, I missed like the 6 buttons, you know, like knowing the nuance, like when to press what button and
Well,
what
all
move
that
to
stuff
do.
will
Like,
still be there.
it will still be there?
Yeah, like
Yeah, you
the
choose your
modern controls
controls.
are optional.
Oh, never mind then. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Russ is going to be there with his, you know, quarter circle forward, upside down, hidden, strong or whatever. And I'm going to be like, bam, I pushed a button. And he's going to clean house with me. But that's okay because it's going to make the game more accessible. So more people are going to be able to play it. But
Right,
yeah, if
for
they
sure.
only did one,
Yeah.
if they just said we're ditching the old way of doing it and not doing, then I would understand why people would be upset about that.
Yeah. No, I'm good then. Yeah, it's all good.
All right. Well, we've talked him down off that ledge, folks. But listen, there's a lot of people who posted a lot of awesome memes. I got to say, Rich, your thumbnail for the PlayStation Q was brilliant. If you guys haven't seen it, head on over to youtube.com/fanthedeck and check that out. There's a really, really brilliant thumbnail. Made me laugh out loud. But let's talk about that PlayStation event. Before we talk about the Q, overall, what did you guys think of the event as a whole? Kyle, start us off.
It was a great event for gaming, but a really bad event for PlayStation. There are very, very few exclusives that aren't VR. And immediately after the event, every company came out and said, oh, and we're also releasing on Xbox and or PC. So the impact was immediately lost. So there are very few reasons that PlayStation are selling people on needing a PlayStation.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I also will say that made me happy because that means that people can play it on their systems of choice. I think that's better than exclusives. I know that and I know that you're not saying this, Kyle. You're not being like, oh, I wanted to have it so that nobody else could have it. I understand that that's not your thought, but there's a lot of people out there that are like, I only want to have, exclusives so that you can't play the game unless you bought the same color box that I bought. And that kind of stuff is ridiculous. Carrie, what do you think is the event as a whole?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo what Kyle said. It was a great PC gaming showcase. Super fantastic. I also was just dying laughing because last week we talked about it. It's like Jim Ryan says PS5 exclusives not for 2 to 3 years, and then Helldivers 2 like opens with the show and it's like on PC day 1, and I'm like, oh yes. But gas games don't count. I understand.
Yeah, well, if you guys aren't sure exactly what we're talking about, go back and watch or listen to the previous episode of the NerdNest podcast because Carrie made this perfect prediction that games as a service games are all going to be on every platform because they got to be. But go check out that episode. Russ, what'd you think about the thing as a whole?
So I missed most of it. I basically tuned in when Spider-Man was showing. So I just watched all that, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh look, it's Spider-Man movie, and it was like 15 minutes long. It was great, and so I just caught that and then read the news afterwards. So overall, at least looking at the news and whatnot, I totally agree with Kyle that it's basically like they made it sound like, oh, look at all these great things happening in the PlayStation world, and then the rest of the world was like, we also have that too.
Yeah. In fact, Microsoft tweeted out like a screenshot that showed all the big games that were announced, and they were like, all coming to Xbox. Rich, what do you think about it as a whole, or is it just, everybody else nailed it already?
I gave it an 8 out of 10 just immediately coming out after it. I felt like it was a good show. I do get the sentiment that it wasn't a good PlayStation show, but I also, like, we say the same thing about Xbox, right? And I think we're just in a time right now where it is going to be very hard to have more than 2 or 3 new AAA games in a one of these events, right? And so if they had one more of those, would that have made it how much better of a Sony show would that have made it? And that's something I'm struggling to see. I think they had Spider-Man, that good 15-minute showcase, which I was really enjoying. And what was the other big Sony game that they continued to talk about? There was one more. Maybe it was just Final Fantasy. Yeah, maybe it was just Final Fantasy.
It's just FF16 and Spider-Man 2 that everyone is
Yeah.
like, we still got that, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited about FF as well. So I think maybe I just saw that. And, I am really excited about the PC game. So I'm like Ghost Runner 2 and Talos Principle 2, excuse me. I can't wait to get my hands on those 2 games.
Yeah. I will say that overall, as a show itself, I thought it was really well done. They didn't do any of the things that drive me crazy, where they're like, we're going to have a group of people come out and pretend to play video games for the first, like they're like playing, they're like, oh, get my 6 and cover me, like that kind of stuff. I always hate when they do that stuff. They didn't have a fake interview. They didn't constantly interrupt gameplay with a bunch of people just talking about this is why it's so great. Like, I think Jim Ryan was on screen for a total of like 3 minutes out of the entire hour plus of time. So I thought that was really well done, and I would like to see more stuff like that. The things that people complained about a lot were too much CG trailers. I agree. I can't stand that. Just show me gameplay. And then a lot of people complained that they didn't show enough for PSVR 2, which I understand that. The games that they did show off, I'm just going to scroll through the list real quick. Obviously, Spider-Man 2. They talked about a games as a service game called Fair Games, which looks like it's a team-based heist game where you're competing against other teams in order to steal something before them, it seems like. Helldivers 2, which Carrie mentioned a little bit ago. I never played the first one. Concord, which is a PvP multiplayer first-person shooter. That's coming to PS5 and PC. Alan Wake 2, which I'm very excited for. Then there's another Assassin's Creed game, which people are excited that is kind of going back to the roots of Assassin's Creed. I don't know. The only Assassin's Creed that I played was what's the Viking one? Valhalla, yeah, and I like that, but I never played the other Assassin's Creed games, even though I bought one. It just sat there in a case, and I never got around to it. Dragon's Dogma 2, which people
that was a big one.
Really excited for that. Final Fantasy XVI, Splatoon is coming to PlayStation essentially. Let's see, a bunch of other stuff. The PlayStation VR stuff. They got Beat Saber, which I ended up picking up. VR mode for Resident Evil 4, and then there's just too much to go through. There was a lot of stuff announced. What was everybody's favorite thing that got announced? Rich?
So I'm going to make a call out in the comments real quick because a lot of people are mentioning Plucky Squire, and that game looks amazing. The one that looks like a link between worlds. I love the look of that game. And then for me, I'm going to say Talos Principle 2. Talos Principle was, I don't know, my favorite puzzle game so far of all time. So I'm looking forward to the sequel.
Awesome. What about you, Carrie?
So the few different indie games that they showed, there was that one game. Is it the Towers game? Towers of something? If that's the one that
was Burnham or something?
Yeah, is that the one that was like kind of Breath of the Wildy? The guy that had like a glider in that one.
Yeah.
That one looked cool. There was a bunch of indie games in there that I was like super stoked. I mean, I'm going to be playing them on PC, but yeah, it was a again, everything that showed in there was actually really cool stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Kyle?
I would say it's a tie between Alan Wake 2 and Dragon's Dogma 2 for me.
See, now I never played Dragon's Dogma. Can somebody tell me about that? Because like I know that it's supposed to be like really hardcore, right?
It can be, yeah. It's, I mean, fantasy. One of its big callings was that you could climb on the monsters to actually like hurt them and everything. Breath of the Wild kind of ended up stealing that a little bit later, but you can actually scale monsters in there and like take them down. It's really good RPG all the way through.
Devil May Cry designer makes high fantasy RPG. Is that?
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Russ, what was your favorite thing in the showcase?
I got someone vacuuming here, so I'm going to mute again after I'm done. But Metal Gear, the Metal Gear ones, you know, I talked about earlier, if we could remake anything or whatever, you know, of all of them, Snake Eater is like my least favorite Metal Gear Solid game, you know, so it is what it is. But all the same, I like that they're actually starting that. I hope that there's no big dramatic conflict between Hideo Kojima and Konami and all that kind of stuff. I just hope it's just a nice, quiet release and they give him his credit and all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, you never know. Anyway, yeah, that's the one that I was like, oh, that perked up when I heard about that.
Yeah, again, that was just a CG trailer, so I'm going to hold my excitement for that, but I am looking forward to jumping in on that. It had been rumored that it was coming. I will say that I guess that it's been confirmed that Kojima has nothing to do with the new one, but that's not a huge surprise after what happened between those two. For me, the thing that I'm probably the most excited for is got to be Final Fantasy XVI, even more than Spider-Man, but I didn't need to see anything else. Like, they could have cut the entirety of Final Fantasy XVI out of this presentation. I know that they put it in there because it's one of the, I think it was, 2 exclusives, so they have to talk about it. But I cannot wait to play that game, and I need no more information. I'm already sold. I'm very, very hyped for it, which is why at the beginning of the show, we're talking about, I got Zelda to finish, then Diablo 4, and then right on the heels of Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 16. So let's move on.
Next week, by the way, is 2023 the best year for gaming? Because this is out of control.
Say that. Wait, what did you say?
Next week's topic, maybe we should do, is 2023 the best year for gaming? Absolutely.
You know what? I have a better idea. So 2023 might be the best year for gaming. Okay. I want everybody in here to try and find a year that comes close. So just look at we've got a homework assignment if you guys are okay with that. We look and see what games came out in previous years and see, does any year come close to how awesome 2023 is shaping up to be? And you know what, if you've got ideas in the comment section down below, help us out, because we'd love to hear what you guys think. David Latcham in chat says 1998. I cannot wait to find out why David thinks 1998. Not because I doubt you, just because I want to know what you're thinking. All right. The other big thing from the PlayStation event is they are unveiling the Nintendo Wii. Or not Wii, the Wii U. Sorry, the Wii U, which I am a Wii U defender. I thought that Wii U was a fantastic console. Only 14.7 million people bought it worldwide in its entire lifetime, but it was a absolutely fantastic system that nobody played, and Nintendo did a terrible job marketing. And that's why nobody played the dang thing. But Sony announced, and I wish I don't know why I closed that window because I needed, because I clicked on a thing. They announced this really oddball thing that's a streaming device called Project Q. The thing looks like a bad Photoshop. I actually think it looks comfortable. And I like the idea of the 8-inch screen, but I recognize that I am in the minority here. Carrie, I'm going to start off with you. What was your reaction when you saw this? Because I know Carrie's going to be salty. He's our old salty dog.
So, all right, so I'm going to tell you, like when I saw this, I was genuinely flabbergasted. There are sometimes that there is a Schadenfreude that I get when Sony just like stumbles, and I look at this and I'm like, oh God, you guys, oh, you all right? You need help getting up from this one? I even felt bad for them after seeing this. Yeah, it's like something that like was in Ken Kutaragi's archives, right? Like they're like, what was that? What was that madman thinking about? Oh, he had a boomerang. He had the boomerang and he put a screen between it. Let's make that. Yeah, it was, I don't know. When you look at it, I think what I said was it looked like the designers, Sony designers and engineers, PlayStation designers and engineers phoned it in at the 11th hour. Like they were told, they're like, oh, handhelds are big, do something. And it was like, here you go. This is like an idea we have. And they said, ship it.
Kyle, what was your initial reaction when taking a look at this?
Well, you can ask my wife. I laughed, and then I said, I can't wait to talk about this on the podcast. Yeah, it does look like a bad Photoshop, and I mean, it does look comfortable. I will grant you that, but that's about all the nice things I can say about it.
Rich?
Yeah, I think it was one of our first podcast episodes where we talked about the rumor for the Q Lite, and we talked about it in earnest, but I didn't really think it was going to come out. I didn't think it was going to come out the way people were saying, a streaming only handheld. I thought, sure, there was a patent, but that doesn't mean anything. So I'm bewildered by it. I do think it looks comfortable, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt there that this design that looks uninspired is probably at least comfortable, but I'm not sure there is a price point that's going to make sense for this. And I saw a few comments on my video that referred to this more as an accessory than a handheld. And that's what I see this as at this point, right? It's not a handheld, it's an accessory. Can I take this out and can I remote play with it? And can I cloud stream with it? Because apparently there is fine print that says you can't in this trailer. I don't know.
Yeah. So Russ, I'll let you give your impressions and then we'll circle back to the things that Rich was just talking about.
Yeah, so first off, I was pleasantly surprised to see that it was an 8-inch screen. I think that 7 inches is a bare minimum when it comes to streaming modern games because being able to see the text and whatnot. So 8 inches is good. But the next impression was that it looks unergonomic. Like, so yes, you'll be able to lay it flat. Like, they have that image where it's just kind of standing on its own. And maybe that's why they put the screen so far down, but that's not going to be comfortable to actually play with. You're going to be looking down a lot and you're going to be cranking your neck down. It should be at a higher level. That's why clamshells are more comfortable, right? Because you have that screen above your controls. And so we are at the opposite with this. I think it's actually going to be less comfortable than a lot of other handhelds in the market.
All right. So we've all given our initial impressions. Rich obviously is giving us some, like he's talking about some stuff that I think is really, really important. So you were talking about the fact that it's an accessory, and it is an accessory because when they talk about this thing, they are saying you are streaming games from your PlayStation, not from our servers. You are streaming the games from your PlayStation. And that is a big problem because not everybody has really good internet. So if you go outside of your house, this will probably work great inside your house, no problem. Outside of your house, however, people are going to be running into so many problems because everybody has different internet. And so if you have like the crappy internet that's just the cheapest one because you really only use it to download things and watch TV, that's most people, then you're not going to have an upload speed good enough in order to maintain a stable connection. You're going to get so much macro blocking in your streaming, and it's going to be kind of laggy, I think, which makes me wonder, is this something that you can take out of your house, or is it something that has to stay in your house like the Wii U? I don't think that they would actually restrict it, but everybody's going to have a very different experience where I might be able to play it because my internet's fantastic, but then Kyle wants to play it at the coffee shop while he's, sitting out there having a mocha latte or whatever it is he's drinking. And he's like, it's a stuttering, framey mess. And that's not the kind of thing you want to have. A predictable experience when you sell somebody a piece of hardware where they go out and they know, oh, well, this is what it's going to be like for me. And not having a predictable experience is going to be a huge problem. So do you guys think that this is going to be something that you can stream outside of your house, or is it going to be limited like the Wii U was? Russ is shaking his head.
No, I think it's just local streaming. I think it's just, instead of thinking of it like an on-the-go device, like you're kind of like hoping it would be, I think it's going to be more like a on the couch and in bed device. You know what I mean? Like I don't see it being anything other than just another way to play PlayStation 5 without having to be hooked into your living room TV. And it's unfortunate. If they price it right, it's fine. You know what I mean? But they're not going to. So we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But
yeah, we will. Kyle, what's your thoughts on that?
I think, well, I guess I hope that they let you do it outside of your house, because even the PlayStation Vita did with the PS4. But whether they do or not is something completely different. I think that chances are low that they'll let you do that because they're trying to sell their cloud service on the side, and this kind of would compete with that. So yeah, I don't think they will.
Carrie, do you think you'll be able to play on this outside of your house, or is it going to be just because they did say over Wi-Fi?
So I would rationalize that they would, only because, like Kyle said, one of the first videos that I had that blew up over like 100,000 views was I got my PS4 early and I showed remote streaming on a PS Vita on my T-Mobile mobile internet connection and playing Resogun. So I had that day one, and Kotaku linked it and stuff. So I did that on a PS Vita. So I wouldn't say that they would. I mean, they could, but I don't think that they would. And there's also like more to talk about that. Even when we've talked about in previous podcasts that we've done, when I was using the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, and I call these types of devices like console companions as an accessory to the other one, where I was playing Skyrim through that. I think that has value. It's just that because of the limitations of the queue, that price is going to be so paramount for this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Rich, you were about to say something?
Yeah, just as far as Wi-Fi and play outside the home goes, I think that there was something between PS4 and PS5 where PS4 you could play outside your home. PS5 remote play, you have to like mess with your router to play outside of your home network. I believe that's the case. I know that's the case for at least some people with Chiaki on the Steam Deck and remote playing to their PS5 that way. I don't know if that's the case, for example, remote play on your phone to your PS5. But I know some people that have had to modify their home networks to be able to remote play outside the home. So that would be the benefit of using Wi-Fi as a protocol here. Just one thing I want to point out is that there's a disadvantage, right, as well, meaning that one of the advantages of Wii U was that it used its own protocol, and so it had faster connection between the tablet and the Wii U. So this being Wi-Fi, it's going to have a slightly slower connection.
Yeah. So, I mean, my thoughts on this are the idea that we have this dedicated device, that its only point is to stream from your PS5. Like, all of the things that everybody else talks about, oh, you can do this on your phone outside of your home. You can do this on, your Steam Deck outside of your home. Like, all of these things, Sony is not selling you a device that its job is to stream. And on this, they're selling you a device that its job is to stream. And as soon as you take it outside of your house, it's like up in the air as to whether or not it's going to work. And that is a really scary proposition for Sony, because if I buy it and it works and somebody else buys it and it doesn't work, that person's going to be ticked off that, hey, how come I'm getting screwed here? Well, it's because your internet's terrible. So that's just something to keep in mind. But everybody in here is wondering, what's the price going to be? Like this thing... I made a video. I said, there's no way that Sony prices this thing correctly. What is the correct price? I have a poll going right now in chat asking what they think the price point will be for the Q. But what is the right price point? Kyle, start us off. What do you think is the right price point for the Q?
The right price, I think, would be no higher than $199.
Okay.
I mean, if it's priced as like an add-on screen, then you couldn't get away with a full device price.
Carrie, your price point that it needs to be in order to be a good price?
Based on the limitations of what it is I feel like 200 is still a bit too much. I would say 150 is more in the realm of like people going, all right. I think $99. People are like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. As soon as you start going over these numbers, then it's just like, well, what's the value that I get out of this? And I cannot have that. So I think that that's the elasticity that that you got to really focus on. And I'm sure they're going to do a lot of market testing, but for me, it's 150.
Russ, what do you think? What's your price point that you say I'll pick one of these up?
So same, I think 199 is the absolute highest that they could possibly go without people coming out with pitchforks. 149, I think it's more reasonable, and it's probably like it's a good purchase at that point. The problem for me is that they've already priced some of their accessories too high by comparison, right? Like their regular controllers, like $70 or whatever, and that Pro controller they have is what, $200. Like they've already painted themselves into a corner price wise. That I don't know. 199, I'm hoping they get to, but at 250 is what I'm worried about.
So you think they'll price it at 250, but you would pick it up at 199?
199, I think it's bare minimum. Yeah.
Or the maximum.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the bare minimum of me saying, okay, at least now it's a reasonable purchase. 149 to me is like, that's what it should sell out, and that's what'll make it successful.
Rich?
I agree with everyone. 150 to 200 is the range. 200 is, I think, a little too much, and 150 is the sweet spot. One of the ways that I phrase this is, just Steam Deck is what I know, right? So Steam Deck sold 1 million units in a year. What price point can this be to sell 1 million units in a year? I don't know if Sony would consider that a success, but I think it would have to be 199 or below to sell 1 million units in a year.
I think 199, personally, I think that's too high. In my opinion, like, I don't think I would not even, if I were not a content creator, I wouldn't even consider it for 199. For 150, I would likely pick one up. At $100, I would snap that thing up faster than you can say anything, because I think that would be a ridiculously good deal. But, I think it was Russ that brought up the price of the controllers. The controller is $70. An 8-inch tablet screen is more than $30. Like, there's
not the Sony.
Okay, that's true. That's a good point. They manufacture this stuff on the regular, so it's not going to be that expensive. But do you think they can hit 99 as a price point? Carrie?
A Backbone is 99, so I don't think so. Backbone being the telescopic controller.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like saying, could they? Sure. Would they? No. I think that's just where it comes down to. But when you get down to the BOM, the bill of materials on these types of things, the screens are cheap. They're like very, very cheap, especially MIPI-based ones that you can just get off on the shelf that are already pre-made. They're alarmingly inexpensive. So when you think about all the things that go into it and what's necessary, I guess it's just really the parts that are going to get that. Even if you're using like MediaTek stuff, it kind of grinds my gears a little bit, like, because when you look at like TVs and stuff, and they're like putting in like absolutely bottom tier MediaTek chips with like a gig of RAM, I'm like, oh yeah, you splurged on all 12 cents on that, did you? It's like, couldn't put an extra nickel in there, like give me 2 gigs of RAM. So I get it, those types of things get me, and I get it like whiz-biz reasons, right? Like they have to be able to sell you the next thing later on, and all the other stuff. Eventually, when it does its updates and it runs like to a crawl, you're like, oh, I have to replace my TV, and I get it. But some of those things are they're not expensive when you look at the bill of materials.
Max Maloney in chat says this is a lower quality screen than most tablets, also much lower quality than OLED on the Vita. I don't do we know? All we know is it's a 1080p screen. And it's an 8-inch screen. We don't know anything else about it, do we? Do we, Rich?
I was just going to say it is LCD, so we do know that.
Okay. I would say that it's not a worse quality screen than most tablets, because while most people who think about tablets, they think iPad, but man, oh man, there are a lot of friggin' Kindles out there. There's a lot of crappy Kindles out there. I think that's probably one of the most common tablets out there, even though nobody, like, they just don't get used as much. Like they're usually, you get it for your kid or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with a Kindle if that's what you got. I wouldn't buy one. And I'm sure that those things, like, what do they cost? Like $50 a piece
I don't know what
for a Kindle. Yeah, they're so cheap. So I think that we don't know much about this screen, so I don't know that we can say like that it's a bad screen. I do like that it's an 8-inch screen, but that thing's impossibly thin. I think the battery life is supposed to be like 3 hours. Is that a deal breaker for you guys? A 3-hour battery life, Carrie?
That's a minimum. That's like I consider like 2 hours to be like D grade, like maybe even like a C plus, like C minus, like you barely passing. 2 hours is like barely passing. Anything under 2 hours is atrocious. 3 hours is like C. Once you start getting into like 5 hours, that's where I consider to be like average. Then once you go over like 6 and the 12, then you're like S and A tier. But 3 hours is not, especially for streaming only device.
Right. It's a streaming device. It should be a lot longer than that. Although I don't think Sony's actually said the battery life. That's just somebody else has talked about it that has had hands on with it, right?
It is I don't know if they said they've had hands on, but it is, I would say, a credible rumor based on who reported it. So it was Tom Henderson who reported Project Q Lite in the first place.
Gotcha.
And the controller, right? Like the controller eats up battery life, like the DualSense technology or whatever. Yep. So it does make sense it's going to be on the low end.
Yeah, and they have said that it has all of the features that the DualSense controller has are in this as well. So that's just something else to keep in mind. I did run a poll while we were talking about this. And just going to get the results of that poll. I asked, what do you think the price point of the Q is? 36% of people said that it's going to be greater than $200. 29% said it will be at $200. 25% said $150, and 8% said less than $100. I think that it's going to be $250, and I will not buy one at $250. But if they sold it at $99, these things would fly off the shelves, especially with 38 million PS5s out there.
One more wrinkle. Here's what they should do.
Yeah. Do
the Xbox Series S thing. So definitely do cloud streaming. They need to do that. I don't see how they'd launch it without cloud streaming. I know I'm beating that horse dead. But then do the Xbox Series S payment plan thing. So you're paying $25 a month for a subscription, but you're also paying down the handheld, the accessory. And after 2 years, it's yours or whatever it is.
That's a really good idea. The whole idea that it's part of your subscription for the cloud streaming, that's really smart. Sony, that one's free. Actually, it's not free. Send the check to Fan the Deck on YouTube.
There is one other thing that I just want to quickly add. And I think that, so for me, there's always been like that conspiracy theory type of part of my brain where when I hear Q Lite, I think of, well, if there's a Q Lite, certainly there's a Q Prime. So I think that there's still a redemption arc that Sony can still like, even like just create and just be like, here's the Q Lite, but also here's the Q, and then have like an actual handheld that everyone wants to buy. So that's me hoping.
That's his hopium. We always have a lot of hopium around here.
Always on fresh supply of hopium nonstop.
Anything else to add before we move on to the other events that are on the way here this summer? No? Okay. So we've got the PC gaming event, which is happening in I'm just getting it up here on June 11th. That's like 12 days away. So that's like 2 weeks from now. We've got the PC gaming show. This is the one that I don't usually get super excited for. I feel like it's not. It's the one that has a lot of. Am I thinking of what's the one that I'm thinking of? They always have like skits and stuff, which I find irritating.
Oh, you're talking about Devolver Digital.
Yes. Okay. No. That's the one I don't really like. That one. I understand that they're just trying to be entertaining, and I just find it to be irritating. Just show me video games and don't talk. That's what I want. I want show me video games and don't talk. But a lot of us have communities that are very heavily invested in PC gaming. And so I'm sure that our audience is very excited about the PC gaming show. Is there anything in particular you guys are looking forward to or hoping to hear about from the PC gaming show in 2 weeks? Rich?
I have no idea what's coming. I think you're right. There are a lot of a lot of our audiences are PC based. But I do think that traditionally these shows just don't get a lot of hype around them because maybe there's less of an identity as there is with Sony and Xbox. So I'd like to see more of that. So I'm glad we're talking about it, more hype around this. But to be honest, I have no idea what to expect from this show.
So far, it's supposed to be Baldur's Gate 3, which is a game that we've been playing for a year now already because it's in early access. It's awesome, though, so pick that up if you haven't. Frostpunk 2, Dune Awakening, a brand new game from Klee. I don't even know who that is. And there's 51 other games that are going to be revealed there. Kyle, anything that you're got your fingers crossed for?
I don't know about any games, but I'd like to see something from Microsoft indicating that they care about handheld.
Well, I mean, we have the ROG Ally, right? So they obviously care about that.
Well, yeah, but they don't have the that new interface they were piloting or anything. They're relying on the third-party vendors to do all the work for them. I would like to actually see some buy-in from the company themselves.
Okay, so since you brought that up, I think it's a good way to ask Carrie about this because, you know, when the ROG Ally first got announced, you put out a video with the headline that said "Thanks Asus, I hate it," and then they updated Armory Crate and you put out another video that said "Thanks Asus, I love it," and I like the little ping pong there. If you guys didn't know, it's 4D chess that Carrie's playing. Has Armory Crate changed much enough for you to get excited about that?
So Armory Crate's update was more, also the BIOS update was just general stability updates on the machine itself. It's like much better. But then Armory Crate, a lot of the feature and functionality of stuff just worked. The frame limiter didn't work before and continues to not work. So I don't know what they're targeting there, but the other type of things that they do kind of help you navigate Windows in a better way in a handheld state and kind of adopt some of the things that are already present on like iPad and Android. More so iPad because it has that like that thin little bar that iPads have at the bottom that indicates you can press it and slide up. So there's indications that Asus have done that really make using the handheld, using their software better. They still have a number of features that I would like them to add, just because of how it's done. But also what Kyle's saying, like I do want Microsoft to just generally have. I mean, they did it for Windows 8, right? They made a whole OS about tablets, and that was atrocious. So I mean, certainly just being aware of a handheld itself, I don't think is a tall order to ask. I would just love them to do that, but there are some things that they have to kind of wrap their head around just because of how many different vendors are coming out with a lot of different weird systems, and sometimes because those MIPI based displays can be rotated in two different ways, so compensating for that and what the keyboard is anticipating on a portrait based display that's rotated. So there's like all of these things that Microsoft never really anticipated that are being wedged into this space, and they need to fix that up. They need to clean that up.
It's one of the things that I mean, you hear Apple talk about this when you want to make a good hardware, control the software, or maybe it's the opposite thing that they talk about, where if you are in control of both things, you generally will have a good experience. You look at the Steam Deck, they control the hardware, they control the software. It is a very good experience using that, just right out of the box. And, you know, Kyle is talking about the idea that there was this leak that Microsoft is working on, you know, a better implementation for like these handhelds. But I guess it was, oh gosh, what's the thing called where they,
Hackathon?
hackathon. It was a hackathon thing. Sorry, Kyle, I thought you were going to say something.
So Carrie,
Yeah, I
though,
said
you
hackathon,
did
yeah.
in your latest video, I saw a comment from, I think it's from somebody at Asus, right? Saying that there was things they were working on with Microsoft to improve Windows. Did you see that comment?
I mean, I see that there's one person that continually comments. I'm not certain about the actual connection there, but I am seeing it and I'm aware of it. But there's other things that are going on in the background that I don't think I can talk about. But they're doing things, and there's also a lot of third party people working on stuff. So there's a big ecosystem of stuff that people are going to be able to tap into after the launch of the ROG Ally. But I mean, I'm still mostly in line with what Kyle's saying. This should just be cohesive from the get go. I think
Yeah,
it'd just be
agreed.
a better situation.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that this is this, but I don't. The reason he answered this question was because I said, "Is there something that you're hoping to see from the PC gaming show?" I don't see that happening at the PC gaming show. That's something that they talk about either at an Asus event or during a Microsoft event, because they're the ones that are completely in control of that, and they could really show that off. I just don't see them saying anything about it at the PC gaming event, because there's so many different different pieces of hardware that you would have to work with. And I just don't see them saying that unless they were doing it at an actual Microsoft event. So let's talk about an actual Microsoft event. June 11th, we've got the Starfield Direct, the Xbox Game Showcase. It's supposed to be like, people are saying Starfield is make or break for Microsoft. I don't necessarily think that's true, but boy, I hope it does well. I'm a big fan of the open world Western RPGs that we see from Bethesda. Are you guys hyped? Carrie, I know you're hyped for the Microsoft event, right?
I am indeed. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Mostly, I just want I want Microsoft to be able to recover somewhat just of the general optics from the wide gaming community in this nonsense console war that we're always like involved with. Is that they are able to get a leg up, especially because Sony fumbled a bit with their previous one, and I would just like them to just have something where this could just even the playing field, and we can just go, okay, great, let's talk about the games now. Because I just right now the only thing I'm really looking forward to is Starfield. I hope they showed something. I hope they show something with Avowed. So if they show something with Avowed, like any gameplay or stuff, I'm looking forward to that. But right now, Starfield is the only thing that's really on my radar.
Anything from the Xbox event on your radar, Russ?
No, the Starfield thing is, we talked about it a couple episodes ago. I didn't realize it was a Bethesda game, so I am looking forward to that. I was a big Fallout 3 fan, and so I am hoping, this will be like a space-based version of that. It'd be pretty cool.
Awesome. Rich, anything?
There's a lot of mowing going on in my area. I mean, it's the same. I'm mostly Starfield. I do have some sympathy for the developers of Starfield. They have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. So
They do.
Yeah, I hope for their sake as well that it just goes well during that event.
I have to say, and then I'll let Kyle jump in. I have to say, personally, I am very excited for Forza. I've never been a racing game guy. I always played, like, Mario Kart was my racing game. But then I picked up an Xbox Series X, and Forza Horizon, whatever it is, that was part of Game Pass. So I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And it was really, really fun. I had a blast with it. And then the same thing happened with Gran Turismo on my PlayStation. I had so much fun with that. So I'm looking forward to the new Forza. I think that's going to be really exciting. And I'm also looking forward to Bethesda's space Fallout. Kyle, what's up, man?
I'm excited for Starfield. I will borrow a page from my own book and say I played a shameful amount of Bethesda games. So I'm looking forward to losing another few weeks in that one and hopefully modding it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Huge. All right, real quick before we have to end, but if we can get FTL, if someone can mod in like FTL like mechanics into Starfield, I would be all about just like being in space and getting boarded and just like open the airlocks to kill them. That's like something that I hope happens.
He's put
Give
a lot of
modders
thought
3
into
weeks.
this, folks.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, it's a Bethesda game, so the mods are going to be necessary in order for it to be playable anyway, because it's going to ship super broken. And that is not a judgment on my part. That is just what happens with Bethesda games. They ship broken, and they're awesome anyway. So speaking of broken games, obviously we've already hit an hour, so we probably can't spend too much time about this. But Gollum, I don't know how to say it, Schmeagol, shipped, and wow, this might be one of the worst launches that I have seen in a ridiculous amount of time. It gave us yet another one of these dear players messages where they're like, "Hey, sorry, our game sucks, and we didn't delay it when we should have delayed it." But I think it was Linus Tech Tips tweeted out a thing where it was basically one of these, but you just fill in the blanks of like, "Hey, everybody, we're sorry that game name is terrible and that we didn't do the quality control that we need to. At this company, we try and make sure that everything's up to the highest standard." It was awesome because we've seen a lot of these recently. So it's yet another game that's broken. Has anybody tried this Trashfire? I hate to be mean to the devs because they didn't make the decision to ship it, but nobody's played it? Okay.
No, I'm just going to say IGN gave it a 4. I don't know if you guys followed the IGN 7 is the low. Yeah, IGN gave it a 4. So
wow. I saw somebody said that they played it for a review, and then they said they didn't play it again after it because it was so broken. Legend Aries in chat says, that's a funny name. They said another bad launch. Wow, 2023 is going to be the best and worst game launch ever. That's a really, really good point. And then Square says that we're going to ship Final Fantasy XVI without a day one patch. I'm super happy to hear that it's going to have no day one patch because they've been working on basically Tears of the Kingdom making sure that the game is done and just kept working on it and polishing it. So it's hopefully going to be awesome on day one. Do you guys think we're going to get one of these "we're sorry" images from Final Fantasy 16? Russ?
I don't think so. I think that I don't know. They've had a good amount of time to bake this game in, and they know how to ship games. And so, yeah, I think that Square Enix will probably do a pretty good job with this one. This is actually, for me, surprisingly, maybe a day one purchase. I rarely purchase games day one, like maybe twice a year. And this might be one for me.
Modern Game Core.
That's right.
Are you going to make a second channel about modern games?
No,
He's already got the URL. Get the URL, man. Somebody else is going to get the URL. They're going to get the little green mat, and they're going to steal your thunder. You better grab the URL. All right. Anybody else have anything to add about those two? The dichotomy between Gollum and Final Fantasy 16?
Just real quick.
The only thing I want to say real quick is it most likely going to launch really good on PS5, but when it launches in like a year or so on PC, it'll be broken by all means for some reason. So yeah, that's the only thing I want to say is it's going to be great on PS5, and they will do nothing until it launches, and then launch it and go, oh, whoopsie doodle. That was the
right. He gave us the perfect segue to the last segment. Did you have something you wanted to say first, though, Rich?
Just the last thing was that, shoot, I forgot. Oh, I'm just glad that with Gollum, that it was just a small segment, right? Because we have had so many great games. So I want to be able to focus on those. And then the bad ones, it happens and we can move on quickly.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of moving on, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, our final story for today, is coming to PC. I did not expect to see this game come to PC because one of the things that they said over and over was the only reason that this game can play is because of the ultra fast SSD on the PS5. Now, I went to the Steam store and it doesn't say anything. Like, they're still saying to be determined on whether or not this game will like what its minimum settings are. I don't know off the top of my head, but have you guys ever seen a game that requires an SSD on PC?
Just for spoken, it doesn't require it, but it leverages direct storage.
Is Dead Space not in the same category?
Does it? I haven't paid attention to direct storage being possible on.
I don't know if it's direct storage or not. I just know that it had trouble playing from the SD card on the Steam Deck, so that's why I connected to the direct storage.
Okay. So Kyle, can you tell people what direct storage is real quick?
Sure. It skips a lot of nonsense that Windows usually has to do to access the storage and just feeds the data directly to the graphics card, basically.
Yeah, so your CPU is not decode or like doing stuff. Your GPU is doing it, and the GPU is usually more powerful anyway. So it's able to load things in faster. And they said the only reason Ratchet and Clank works is because the SSD is so fast. It's able to get that information loaded super quick, so that you can have like the two worlds open at the same time with the weird. I haven't played the game with the weird portal gun. I've got it installed because it's in PS Plus this month, so I'm definitely going to be playing it eventually after I get bored with the other awesome 2023 games that we've got. Russ, do you think that this game is going to require an SSD?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they probably will put something. I saw a comment that said that The Last of Us actually requires one too. I'm not sure about that. I don't really follow the technical side, but I have played through this game. This is one of the first games I bought when I got the PS5 last Christmas, and it's a good game, and it is amazing technically what they can accomplish, like being able to jump through those little hoops and whatever. It does feel like, I always mention, this feels like playing a Pixar game, and so it is pretty amazing. And I don't know. I don't have a PC that can handle that. I don't think. We'll see.
I certainly don't either. There's no. I'll just play it on my PlayStation. Russ, Rich, you were about to say something.
There's verbiage in the Steam store page that makes it seem like they're targeting the Steam Deck as well. So hopefully it should scale well to lower hardware.
Ratchet and Clank. I'm just trying to bring it up on screen. Anybody have anything to add while I'm trying to type?
There are other. There are more PC ports coming as well. So good stuff.
Yeah, this was another one that was in the NVIDIA leak a while ago. And that NVIDIA leak has been proven true time and time again at this point. And so we should be expecting Ghosts. We should be expecting Demon Souls. What else should we be expecting? If you remember, Kerry?
So, I mean, Ghost of Sushi is probably the one that's coming next. Demon Souls has been on that for a bit now, but I would wager that Sushi is first. Outside of those, I think the only ones that are on the docket would be like the ones that we know that will eventually come, like Ragnarok. And then there's the ever waiting Bloodborne saga that we've all been, just
that wasn't on the list, so I don't.
I know it wasn't on the list, but everyone just keeps talking about it. And it's just like,
I know.
Yeah.
So what Rich was saying is that there's some language here on the Steam page. It says choose from a wide variety of graphics quality options to tailor to a wide range of devices, all the way from high-end PCs to portable PC gaming devices. So that could mean the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally or any number of those portable candy bar handheld PCs that are everywhere that Russ and Carrie turn. There's like 15 of them, like stacked up, and you guys are tripping over them all the time. You're going to be playing You're going to be playing Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart on there. So there you have it, and that does it for today's episode of the NerdNest podcast. Before we get out of here, if you've been watching this on the YouTube channel, thank you very much. Make sure that you click on that like button because it really does help out. If you are listening to this, you can subscribe over at the YouTube channel and be here for the live show with the almost 300, actually over 300 other people that are here right now. You guys are fantastic. I really do appreciate that. If you want to listen to the show, you can subscribe to it wherever it is that you guys listen to podcasts, and just make sure that if your podcasting app allows you to rate the show, that you rate it 5 stars or whatever is like the best, because that really does help out. Russ, remind everybody, where can they find your stuff?
So I'm at Retro Game Core, so retrogamecore.com, where you can find all my guides, but then obviously the YouTube channel, Retro Game Core, core spelled like Marine Corps, CORPS.
Excellent. Kyle, where can people find your stuff?
YouTube channel, Cryobite33, or my website, cryobite.io.
Oh, I didn't even know about the website part. That's awesome. I'll have to check that out. Carrie, tell everybody where they can find you.
On YouTube, you can find me on YouTube, The Fox.
That's right. That's PHAWX, not FOX. What does the Fox say? He says, have a nice day. But Russ, not Russ, Rich, dang it.
You did well today. It was just the last. We went.
That's because I tried to separate the two R's. Every time I talked to people, I was like, I would go to Russ and then other people and then Rich. And I screwed it up. Rich.
No, you did great. Yeah. So Fan of Deck on YouTube. Yeah. Fan of Deck spelled as it sounds. And you can find me in other places from that YouTube. So go there.
Awesome. And from the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, everybody.